Hi, I'm Jay, and today we're doing something a little bit old school. I'm back in the garage with just a single camera. The only upgrade to the whole kit is just that I have a wireless microphone so I can sound a little bit better. But we're back at in the garage working on the Kayak. Stay tuned. So last year, I talked about doing one big upgrade every year. The end of last season was adding the NLD handle, which this worked out great, perfect upgrade. Maybe the next thing I'll be thinking about is the Boondock kit, though my Native Slayer Max 12.5 is new enough where it has the rudder assembly that is Boondock-like, I guess I could say, from Native. It was a nice upgrade and it's been working just fine, though the NLD handle is perfect. We talked about adding electronics. So here I have a Garmin Striker 4 Plus actually. I also, all winter long, I used a Garmin Striker 4 ice fishing, worked great. The 4 Plus is just a nice addition for the Kayak, and I'm able to use the Transducer from my Garmin Striker 4 that I got at Christmas time. I upgraded that to the ice Transducer, and so now with the 4 Plus, I got cheaply off of the Evil Bay, and can use the regular Transducer for the Kayak. Now initially I did see online somebody who actually took the standard ice Transducer holder and they just cut it in half, maybe this curved part, they cut that off and were able to mount it outside of their Kayak. The Slayer Max has a pocket underneath, and does have a space here under the hatch where battery box and transducer can be mounted. I did a little show and tell, I think, on the Instagram, nothing on the YouTube. But I did make a battery box. This thing is fantastic, worked great for ice fishing, and I'm looking forward to using it on the Kayak. So it's a real easy project. It was fun to do. My plan is to have the portable battery box with the transducer plug right in the side. Will sit behind my seat or sit in my bucket, in my milk crate on the back of my Kayak. So this wire will go straight to the Garmin and then through the wall of the Kayak into the battery box under the hatch, for the transducer cable. There'll be more than enough cable for that. We'll have to figure out a way to do some cable management. Today I thought what I would do is show the process of taking the Garmin transducer mount kit along with the Yak Attack through hull wiring kit. And I got a couple little odds and ends. Got a couple rod socks that these are actually a little bit too small for the rods that I wanted to use them on. They only cost a couple dollars. These are real cheap off of Amazon. I think I got a pack of 12 for maybe 12 bucks, under $20, that's for sure. But I want to incorporate these for some of the wire management to protect the wires. The newer Garmin cables, the newer Garmin power cables come with a fuse, an inline fuse, which is all well and good, but it just seems to be in the open and probably prone to getting knocked about. So I just want to protect that a little bit, and we'll go through the process. So let's do this the old school way with one camera with hopefully good enough audio and a lot more editing than what's typical. So I will put the microphone rear facing. And the garage is just a wreck, I have to admit. Yesterday we were fixing one of the vinyl siding pieces on the side of the house. We've had an awful lot of wind and rain lately. So I got ladders in the way. I got some of my ice fishing stuff still in the way. Tools and kayak things on the bench. So the garage is a complete mess. It's raining outside. The weather might mess up our opening day of walleye, which I'm not extremely excited about. I'm actually very disappointed if it messes up our walleye opening day. But this is the bottom view. This is a fisheyes view of the pocket under the native Slayer Max 12.5. That fits a transducer. It's nice and long. For some of those longer transducers, also transducers with the side imaging. That black plate has 2 screws in it. We're going to remove that to make it a little bit easier for us to mount our transducer to, and then we'll reassemble everything. So here we have the 200 by 50 XDCR mount or repair kit for Garmin. It's just their dual frequency transom mount transducer. It comes with the installation instructions, a bag of nuts and bolts and clips for wire management, and the transducer mount itself. The main part of this is this transducer mount. That's the main thing that I wanted from this kit. Some of the odds and ends might be usable, but for the most part, no. Here is the plate off of the underside of the Slayer Max. I did take a Sharpie marker, a silver Sharpie marker, and just mark this outside edge. I know this is the outside edge on the bottom. I did that mainly so I could see when I was just trying to take a straight edge and make sure that this plate is actually recessed about a 32nd to 1/8 of an inch, give or take, up into that well, which is really good for us because the transducer does not have side imaging. So I can mount this as close to that bottom edge as possible, keeping it parallel with this edge here. And I know it will be safe, protected by the bottom of the kayak, as well as be far enough down in that pocket for good reading, because it's going to read straight down. If there was a side imaging transducer, be a little bit different. The Yak Attack through-hole wiring kit, that will just be for the wall of the kayak, only because I want to mount my Garmin on the left side Any of you sailors out there, you let me know what side of the boat that is. Put that down in the comments. And I bought my Slayer Max at the end of 2021, and it only has the sacrificial plate on the right hand side. And again, you sailors, you let me know what side is left and what side is right. So I'm trying not to trip over my transducer cord, but that's what we have to work with. And I'm going to set up the camera and shut up just a little bit and basically go through the motions of finding out where to place this, drilling 2 holes for the mounting screws, and then attaching the plate back onto the kayak, and then attaching this and the transducer. I was unable to use the nuts and bolts that were part of the kit. 2 self-tapping screws probably would have worked perfectly, though they were too short. And then the longer bolt with the nut that was made to go through the wall of a boat to attach it. So we've drilled our holes slightly higher. So I did reassemble and put this plate back onto the kayak, and notice that there was another 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch gap above it. So I put the screws a little higher so we can mount this as high as possible. So it'll be less than a full inch extending past the opening of that cavity for the transducer. I dipped into some of my kayak gear, found some stainless steel screws. They're not ideal because of the shape of the head, but they're the right size and definitely the right length, and will tap partially into the plastic, and I'm pretty sure that they won't come out. My other option, these bolts had a better head, a flat head, but only had the square tip, and though they probably would have worked just as well, it's going to be a little tricky maintaining pressure as I screw in the mount. I want to make sure that it's done with even pressure and nice and tight without any wobble. I don't want to elongate the holes and make it weak. So the pointed screws will be the ticket. Those are snug. I did pre-drill the holes in the plate, so I know that they are square. But we have to do this in 2 steps because, as you can see, the transducer mount does extend over the edge of the mounting plate screws. And I am holding this up as tight to the bottom of the boat as possible. These are going in snug because the hole that I drilled for each of the screws is a little bit smaller than the screw itself, of course. And it looks like they're off center. Something's not square. This is good, it's fine. It's up as high as it can go already. But I can tell that it's not square to the, I have to hold it off of square to remain square to the plate bottom. Snug. Next, we'll remove this rope, this cord. So here we are back up on top, looking at the scupper hole that's inside the battery box. And with our number 2 Phillips, we can remove the scupper hole plate. Trying to do this with my reading glasses on. So we remove this plate, and we can remove this scupper plug, which gives us access for the transducer cord. I will save this plug, and we're going to remove the cord, and we're going to slice it on one side so we can feed the transducer cord through this plug, and we will replace this plug once we mount the transducer. And so we take a look under the boat. Its transducer has been installed. It does stick down a ½ an inch, though it is protected by the front of the boat. And as you can see, we add a little bit of adhesive to that corner just to glue that protector back into place. And let's climb under here. And this is what it looks like. We had to get a little bit creative in putting it together because we had to loosen the mounting bolts on the transducer bracket itself to lower it so we could get a screwdriver into the right hand side there, and also be able to hold on to the nut on the left to tighten everything in place. But now the transducer is in the position as level as it's going to be. And it is just about even with these lips here and well above this lip here. So as we come up top, here's that scupper plug that I did slice on one side so I could thread the transducer cable through. And we can place this back in the hole snug. That should remain watertight as before. This bracket we can put on either left or right. Again, any sailors, put those comments down below. What's the left side? What's the right side of the boat? But I think we're going to install this like so, which also helps keep this scupper hole watertight because of the styrofoam here. And we're going to run this wire through this wall using the Yak Attack through wire kit, and then we're going to run it inside the boat to here. Now ideally on the newer Slayer kayaks, there's a cutout here and here for wires. It's kind of an indent that you can thread wires through, and then you have access to inside the hull from this side. As you may remember, if you've seen my other video, I've actually removed the tub that fits into this hatch, specifically so I could build the front and back walls along with the floor. And this right now is just built out of plastic. Ideally, I would make these same parts out of starboard. I just thought the starboard at 1/4 inch would just be a little bit too thick and maybe a little bit too much weight. But I used this setup all last summer and it worked perfectly. It gives me more space to load stuff here in the front hatch, and it does give me access if there's water inside the boat itself. I can monitor that, and since it's only put together like a puzzle piece, just snapped together, I can take this out anytime I need to access deep inside the kayak. But today we're going to do everything just from here, and we'll snake the wires to come out right here. So everything we're doing here today is very old school. Looks like the battery on my GoPro is already getting low. I'm not even using an external battery like I typically am. I'll take a break here. We'll switch out the batteries. Some of this I will, I'll drill some holes and line things up off camera. It's probably not something that you'll want to see. I'm not really set up that way here in the garage anyway. And like I said, single camera setup. One last thing before we go, just to look at some of the extra tools and things that I used. Let's just turn you around here, back to my table saw top, aka my workbench, because I got 2 workbenches that apparently aren't good enough to do this stuff on. So I did use the drill driver. Got some drill bits here just to drill those pilot holes. Looking at some of the extra hardware that was in that mounting kit. These are things that I could use, these clips to hold the wires for wire management. Potentially the same with this plastic hole cover. This is kind of a through hole kit itself. This might be a good option inside that battery box as opposed to the Yak Attack through hole kit, and I'll have to think about that. One, this is a little bit smaller, and it's for that single wire. The only other consideration is using the through hull wiring kit. Allows 2 wires. I can put the inserts in for 2 wires, and eventually, perhaps not using the battery box. Maybe this battery box. Maybe I should do away with this battery box. Mount the battery in this hatch section, and have a couple gauges somewhere up here in my kayak. Not sure I really want to do that. I do like the idea of being able to use this for ice fishing. I can take it and go. I can take it in the house and charge the battery. But then this battery box area, even though it will have 10 foot of wire, this will be coiled up nicely and placed in the bottom. That will still give me some storage space for things like my spongy sponge. And this dry box here is tools and accessories. It's got my old handle, just in case I ever need to replace that. It's got extra parts for the cameras and things to write with, screwdriver in case I need to fix the rudder while I'm out on the water, etc. So to me, there's benefits for leaving those hatches free for storage. I did talk about in the past reducing the size of my milk crate, and again, that's just one of those things. Like most fishermen, you know, we buy tackle boxes, and there's a whole section in the sporting goods store specifically for hunters and fishermen to carry all their crap. As I get older, I think that less is more sometimes. We don't need to carry everything we own. I fish specific lakes. I'm not going to carry my bass stuff when I'm fishing a lake specifically for walleye, as an example. I'm not going to carry my heavy walleye rods if I'm fishing a lake that's all perch and crappie. So I like to pare things down. I do it with my ice fishing shack and my sled. I tried to carry only the things that I need, whittle down the type of fisherman that I am. I don't have to fish for everything when I'm fishing for one thing specifically. So this box, I play with the idea of lightening the load. In the same idea for that, most every lake I've gone to this past summer, instead of leaving the sidekick wheels attached to the kayak while I'm pedaling around, you know, this is 75 pounds worth of weight. So I take each of the wheels and I put them in the back of the truck, so I'm not paddling around the lake with extra weight that I don't need. I think my expectations of this craft have changed since I've bought it. Originally, in my mind, when I was thinking of purchasing it, in all the reviews that I watched, I was thinking of the Slayer Max as being kind of like a boat. So I could walk back and forth, I could carry all my junk, you stick a motor on it, you can row it, etc. And it's not really that. That's not the type of craft it is. Yes, I can stand in this. Am I brave enough to stand and fish? I really am not. I've attempted to stand up in this a few times. I can stand and look around. I've even made a cast or two. My buddy loves standing up in his Hobie and fishing like it's a floating dock. This boat's a little bit bigger than that, and it's not that it's unstable, it's that I'm an old man and I don't feel the level of risk that I'm taking. I don't feel that it's worth the risk. So I sit and I cast. I sit and I fish. So that will do it for now. I'm going to swap out the batteries, kind of button up some of these other things, bring the camera back on, trying to make this a manageable video, interesting enough for you, without cutting out too much. We'll be right back. Redoing the ending of this real quick, making sure I have the microphones turned on. Just to give a quick overview of what we've done here today. We took the rod sock and covered the power cord, just mostly to protect the inline fuse that Garmin puts on the power cord. This will as you can see, go between the seat and just make its way back to the battery box that we built. And this will stay behind the seat. Or if the weather is bad, this will actually fit inside my milk crate, either or. So that will work out just fine. I did leave the option of changing the through hole, Yak Attack through hull pieces, where I could add the second power cable, or the holder for the power cable, and run the power lines into the front hatch of the Kayak. But as we can see, let's go underneath the light here. The Yak Attack through hull installed, no problem. The transducer cable, I could have thread it through and just let it sit in the hull of the Kayak, though I didn't really want it bouncing around, and coiling it up and just securing it with Velcro was no problem. That'll just sit in the bottom of this battery box like so. And that will give me, allow me to throw in a bag or a box or two, you know, just for storage, anything that won't fit up in the front hatch. Going to this side, here's the Yak Attack through hull kit, the transducer cable that goes up to the fish finder. This is the transducer cable end. It's just not plugged in, but I did test it out. It worked very nice. I do like the idea of the fish finder being on the left side of the Kayak, and I fish with my right hand off the right side of the boat. I think that will do it though for us today. Before I go, let's look at the cart. I've gotten a few questions for this. This is just a Wen 36 by 24 service cart. It's the type of cart you'd see, it's kind of like a tool cart, or the type of cart you'd see in a factory, in the cleaning crew or maintenance guys, you know, would use it to carry their tools and supplies and whatnot. The top tray, I have a 2x4 frame built that just fits snugly in the top tray, and then the 1/2-inch plywood just screwed right into that. So if the Kayak was not on this cart, I could just lift this wooden piece right off to use it as a tool cart or for whatever I might need it for. And I do have the gray styrofoam underneath the Kayak here to just help protect it from the plywood. The cart works out really nice. You can roll it around very easily. I can wheel it forward when I'm loading my truck, and makes that whole process go along quite easily. Let's take a quick look at the tools, if you have any questions on that. Drill driver, don't need it, but it's absolutely helpful. Smaller drill bit to drill the screw holes, a larger drill to start the hole for the through hull kit, and then the larger of the step driver, just the step drill, just to enlarge the hole so I could get it perfectly at 1 inch. A simple lighter just to take care of the ends when you cut that rod sock. Needle nose pliers, Phillips 1 and a Phillips 2, just to make sure that you're using the screwdriver that fits the stainless steel bolts that we're using. I do use an awl instead of a marker for marking the small screw holes. It's just easier to put a small indent into the side of the plastic, and then also helps with starting your drill. Flush cutters, of course, I used zip ties on some of that wire, and a couple markers, my ink saw, of course, writing in black, but I also had the silver Sharpie for writing on the transducer mount. Yak Attack through hull wiring kit worked perfectly. It comes with the two covers that I installed, and then all the extra pieces, whether you're running wider gauge wire or thinner wire. So of course these will go into my Kayak junk just to save. It's always good to have extra parts kicking around. Same with the old transducer mount, along with the hardware that I did not use from this XDCR mount kit. The basic, it's the Garmin basic Garmin transducer mount. So I think that will do it for us today. It's still raining out. I have a bad feeling that opening day of walleye season is really going to be a washout. Not feeling optimistic about it, unfortunately. It's been raining all day long, and it's supposed to go on until tomorrow. But we'll see. I'm still hoping to get out, do some walleye fishing with the flies that we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 months. Before we end, I want to remind everybody, stop in at the website, jworthhandtied.com. A big selection of all the jigs that I tie and sell, along with streamers. Eventually I'll get the ice fishing jigs on there. I have found some really good deals, particularly on fly hooks, dry fly hooks. There's some wet fly hooks as well as some streamer hooks still for sale. As I find some of those really good deals, of course I buy what I need, but if I can get a really good deal and pass savings along, I'm happy to do that. As always, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any new content. Feel free to share any of the videos. It does help with increasing awareness for the channel. But that's all we have for you today. Until next time, guys, tight lines. Wow, can you hear the rain? It's wicked loud.